Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series, Model Museum, where I review every single Model 1, Model 2, and Model 3 arcade game in a retrospective fashion that is not a racing game, because I did that retrospective last year. And I was thinking to myself, should I talk about Ski Champ? I just recently talked about it. I went back into my menu in YouTube, and I realized it's been over 3 years. That's how fast time flies on the channel. But this is one of my favorite Sega games of all time, and that is because I have an intimate relationship with Ski Champ, because I worked in skiing for many years, and the first time I saw an arcade cabinet for this game was at a ski resort. Yes, I was there for work, yes, I was skiing, and I still decided to put quarters in versus just going outside. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, Ski Champ is an incredible game, and you can run it via the Supermodel Emulator, and the controls pivot excellently to an Xbox One controller. But if you've never seen a cabinet for this game, you stood on virtual skis, big platforms, and you moved your body to the left and to the right, swinging and putting pressure, just like you would on a traditional set of skis, carving and catching those edges. And that is why Sega was so incredible back in the day, and so were arcades, because they had those gigantic amusement cabinets, experiences you couldn't have at home. Pair that with the Model 3 graphical look, which was way more powerful than anything else on the market at the time, and you had a recipe for one of the best arcade gaming experiences around. Now, I am definitely biased towards this game. I was on skis basically from the time I could walk as a child. I skied professionally for a while, and I have been a coach at the X Games and other major skiing events. I did documentary work as well. So I am predisposed to like anything involving skiing, but I'm not going to say that this game's amazing just because it involves my favorite sport. It's amazing because everything is tight, concise, and action-packed. There are only 2 courses of this entire game. You can either go left or right and see different areas of the mountain, but every single turn, every single inch of snow is a challenge in and of itself. There's so many shortcuts in this game, so many different lines you can take. It takes about 9 minutes to see everything the game has to offer, and it takes weeks to better understand every single fall line of this mountain and figuring out where you can get a little bit more speed. And that is what's so much fun about this. And like I said, even though we don't have a gigantic amusement cabinet underneath our feet, with an Xbox One controller, all of the analog inputs for carving and pushing on that edge, as well as pulls, work 100% perfectly. A lot of the times these giant amusement cabinets just do not pivot over to a handheld controller, but in this instance it 100% does work. And I've had an idea of using a Wii Fit balance board to try to actually stand on it to make it seem like it skis. So if you want to see that video, leave me a comment down below, and if I get enough responses, I will start looking into that. But you will see there the option of going left or right, and it's very Outrun-esque. You either take one direction or the other, and I would say that they're about equally as difficult. The A course is always going to be the same, B is going to be a variable, and C is going to be the same. But everything about the way you get to the finish line is just pure Sega gaming gold. And we cannot discount the fact that this game also looks spectacular. Now granted, I am using the Supermodel Emulator, which will allow you to do 16:9 widescreen, and it is upping the internal resolution of the game, but even in an original board format on a 4x3 CRT, the colors in this game just scream Sega. They did not use any subtle colors. It's all hot neons and everything in between. And that's why these games age so well graphically. They are so poppy, they are so colorful, they are so uniquely Sega in their visual appearance that you know immediately who made this game, and you can also say how well it stood up the test of time. And you'll see one skier got there, caught in his own slough, and that is a very dangerous thing when you're doing big mountain skiing. That slough will 100% kill you if you're not paying attention. Luckily, it never happened to me, or maybe I'm a ghost doing this voiceover. But you will see here the game does give you directions on how to play the game, and that was very important because most people hadn't seen many cabinets like this before, although Sega did have a Model 2 game that did the exact same thing. Basically, how you swing the analog controls and how you calibrate them is going to dictate how you turn in the game. You have 2 buttons as well. Those are going to be your pulls, left and right, and if you hit anything in the game, like a caribou, never done it before, but I'm sure it could happen, you can rapidly tap those to skate forward. But this game, like I said, is just a 10 out of 10 for me. I absolutely love it. There is nothing about it that does not make me happy, and that includes the soundtrack. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds. I'll come back and tell you more about the game itself.
Time extended. Oh, exciting!
The soundtrack is basic, but it 100% works for the game, but I will tell you right now, nobody jumps out of a helicopter with their skis on their feet. It is a one-way trip to getting a full ACL, MCL, and medial meniscus reconstruction surgery. Trust me, I would know. Didn't do it jumping out of a helicopter with skis, but I have done that rodeo, and I don't want to do it again. But I have been big heli skiing many times, and both shot out of the helicopter as well. A lot of people ask me what I do outside of this channel, and back in the day I used to do aerial photography. Sadly, a lot of that has been replaced by drones, so the robots definitely did take my job on that one. But honestly, just pivoting back to the game, which is what we should be talking about, this is Sega at its best. This generation of games, they were just always trying to be hyper creative and do something new. And I don't know why this entire ski resort is burning. I've never seen that before, but I have seen rails that have holes in them hooked up to propane tanks that we did light on fire in Keystone, Colorado to get some magazine cover shots for Free Skier magazine. So I definitely have seen people ski on fire, just not through fire in the woods. And all of these tricks are so old and ancient, even by 1998 standard, and these skis have no side cut. We definitely had a lot more from there. But if we take another right here, we're going to start seeing more of the game that you haven't seen before. Now, if there's one thing that I wish that this did have a little more of, and that is courses. I wish there was a second mountain. Now, I understand this is not a cheap game to make, and it's definitely not a cheap cabinet to build, but it would have been good to have a little bit more longevity in it, because once you actually get good at the game, you can basically see the end on a single credit. I am on normal difficulty here. I didn't adjust anything in the test menu, and I can get from top to bottom on my first run. Now, granted, that is using a controller. When you're actually using your legs to move the controls, it definitely does become harder because you're putting your whole body weight into it, and depending on how strong those legs are, you're going to have a better or a worse time, because your legs are 100% going to burn after a round of Ski Champ the same way that your legs are going to burn if you've been skiing all day long and just decide to point her straight and give her, as we would say. But honestly, this is just so much fun. Every time I see this game in motion, I smile, and it's been many, many years since I've seen a cabinet in the wild, so if anyone knows one around Chicago, please leave me a comment down below. I would love to see it one more time, because this was basically every ski resort through the 2000s. If you went anywhere out west, if you went to Europe, even if you went to Asia, you would see something like this around. And it brings me back to a time and place that I'm very nostalgic for in some ways, and in some ways are kind of past. I just remember traveling the world, skiing all day long, not being home for 70 to 80 days in a row, spending all of this time with my friends, and that was incredible. But of course, life does move on. But games like this and the ability to play them again are what are able to bring us back to those moments in time. Because honestly, I don't want to go back to being on the road 300 days out of the year. I'm probably too damn old for my back to carry that equipment up and down a mountain 300 days. Well, that I'm not really that old. But I can kind of relive moments of time by playing games like this. And that's half the reason this channel exists. It's not just for me to show you games I think you should play, it's for me to go back in time and remember where I was and who I was when I played them. Because a lot of people will discount games as just a hobby. Obviously not many people on this channel, you're watching for a reason, but it is so much more than that. Replaying a game that you fell in love with 20, 30 years ago is no different than reading a book or watching a movie that you fell in love with at the same time. Video games can bring us those memories, and they can bring us back to those places, short of having actual time travel. But honestly, I would not be jumping like this anymore because my knees and my back just are not 20 years old anymore. And I kind of wish they were, but hey, what are we going to do? I wouldn't trade the memories for the years. And you'll see here as we come around the corner, there's giant balloons in the background. This game is just constantly showing you something new, something strange, something weird, and you want to look at every single inch of it. But Ski Champ is 100% my favorite Model 3 game ever made, not just because it involves skiing, not just because it is fun, but because it brings me back to a time and place that I miss in some way, shape, or form. Sure to that, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.